Welcome. We're so excited that you could join us. Nikki and I have spoken to countless marketers and sales professionals over the past couple of months because we've been hearing about the opportunities and the trends and also the massive challenges that you're facing. And so we're just excited to share. We do have a lot of information here. We've got slides, we've got notes, and we'll be chatting. So it is a bit informal, but let's get on with it, hey?
Yes, thank you. So my name is Nikki, just to introduce myself, and I run a marketing agency named Miss Marketing. So I started my business about 3 years ago after 15 years in corporate across various different roles and working my way up from junior to senior positions. I just wanted to be able to help multiple businesses build their brand and see their vision come to life, really.
Hi, and I'm Natalie Coulson. I run a content marketing and PR agency called Amped Up Marketing and Communications. So I also spent around 15 years working as a journalist, then as an account manager in the magazine publishing industry, and then I moved across to communications, so working as a comms manager. So between us, we've done quite a few things. We've worked in marketing teams or with marketing teams our entire careers. So we're excited now to show you and to share some of those findings with you and support you.
Yeah, so Natalie and I have teamed up because we are stronger together with our combined experience and skills. And we have one goal in mind, and that is to make the lives of marketing and sales teams easier. So basically, after talking with a number of marketers over the last few months, we're keen to share some of those findings, and we have uncovered some great opportunities, challenges, and trends.
Right, so this is not going to be a shock to you. The first thing that we were told by, I think, everyone that we spoke to was that teams are massively under-resourced. So as an industry, and like many industries, marketing is going through a huge ongoing disruption. And a lot of that is down to technology. So there are more and more tools available, and I think we all feel that as consumers as well as marketers. There's more data provided because of all of those tools. I mean, we were just talking before about like Clubhouse and TikTok, and that's just social media. And then you've got all of your, your task management software and various things. So, and customers, their needs haven't changed. In fact, they want a more personalised service. So that's getting more challenging. The data is there, but it's still challenging. And also, while PR, marketing, sales, and IT all were in their separate silos, all with their separate remit, now all of those teams have to work together in some way. So what you're seeing is a huge restructure in marketing, and often they're under a new umbrella, which is maybe an IT person.
Yeah. So, as we said, we surveyed a number of marketers, and many of them came back and said that there was huge challenges with resources and resourcing teams and workloads, etc. And I know personally for myself as a marketing manager, this was a huge challenge. So I had to juggle different projects, supporting a busy sales team, and then keeping up with all of the digital changes that were constantly happening. And we always felt like we were chasing our tail, or we had to work extra hours to be able to keep up with the workload. Now,
and it's just not sustainable over the longer term, is it?
No, it isn't. And, you just want to, it doesn't mean that people will be happy. You want people to be happier and, Anyway, so I guess a lot of organisations these days are quite flat, which means a lot of the work is actually done in-house. And that requires marketing teams to have broad skill sets across a variety of different facets, making it harder and harder for teams to really keep up. So I think streamlining some of those processes does help, but not enough. And then teams aren't able to get additional headcount. So I personally found for myself and our team that outsourcing or getting results-driven agencies to come in and help really change the game and alleviate some of the pressure.
And just looking at those challenges again, we can't forget about COVID. In Australia, I think we've been particularly lucky, and that hasn't affected us as much. But depending on your industry and your role, globally, there are still huge ramifications. So there's been, not just the effect that it's had on you in your role, but also when you think about your company and your customers. So there's been a massive change in customer behaviour. with everybody working from home or just changing the way they do things, maybe much more of a digital focus. There are, in your role, you need to look at those customer insights. So you're expected to provide that additional data for the sales team and for management. And that's new. Like, it's a different situation we haven't encountered before. It's unprecedented, but it is. Also, anything that you were working on before March last year, often it was just shredded, gone. Yes. So that, like, your momentum was gone. And that's a year ago now, but we're still feeling the effects. And teams and customers are just expected to embrace this new normal, which is not really organic. It was really forced upon us.
Yeah, so what we uncovered was that many marketers were not really feeling supported. There is a huge expectation for teams to perform highly, which is even harder to achieve during COVID. And then they've also got to support a busy sales team, but then they're not actually getting the support themselves to achieve what they need to achieve. So, yeah, it's just getting harder and harder.
Yeah, so we spoke with quite a few salespeople, and I know, having worked in sales for over 10 years, I can relate to this on a personal level. And those two teams need to work really closely. So marketing needs to provide the information for sales to do their job well. And if salespeople aren't getting the resources they need quickly enough, or they're getting collateral that they can't really use, it's just a massive disconnect and a big fail, to be honest, which could be avoided. Yeah. And why is that happening? I think it's because, and we know this from speaking with salespeople, it's because marketing teams are so caught up with getting all of their approvals and it's getting stuck because of management having to oversee things, and that's the reason. But it's still a disconnect that could be bridged.
Yeah, it's a massive roadblock. So,
and of course, COVID again, massive spanner in the works. And the problem with an unsupported sales team is that they're struggling to understand that changed customer behaviour. And we just talked about people working from home, not as accessible as they are, particularly in that B2B environment. And so you're needing to sell to them or reach them, and people are reachable, but they're operating in a different way over Zoom calls. We've all gotten very used to Zoom calls. And I'm sure that you're also receiving loads of LinkedIn pitches. And that needs to be done very differently to be effective. Email. So it's not as easy to go and find someone in their office. So it's just a different way that salespeople need to operate. And I think there's an opportunity there for marketing to come on board and really be that helpful partner in the whole system. And of course, there are huge changes in sales, and that means opportunities. So sales is not so much now about features and benefits. I mean, it is still part of the sales process, but it's not the initial part of the equation. It's about showing that connection, understanding, building that bridge so that you're educating your potential customer. And once they are your customer, you're nurturing them. So features and benefits is, not the main priority anymore.
Yeah, so, there's long been a misalignment between sales and marketing. And if you've been in either of those two teams, it won't come as a surprise to you. But to achieve corporate goals, you really need to break down those silos and go for like a more integrated approach. And, a great example that I saw of this was in the last company that I actually worked for. We appointed someone to oversee both teams. And we just saw such a dramatic change in that. I felt like there was more respect between the teams and, say, a better communication. But it also meant that we achieved greater results because we're finally on the same page with customer needs, strategy, and the best way to achieve them. But a thing that I used to do personally as a marketing manager to help with this was I'd actually fly into each state biannually.
Flying. Oh my gosh, remember that?
Flying, I remember those days. I used to fly into each state and I used to run workshops with each of the sales teams. And that was just a great way to identify what kind of support was needed at a local level. And I just felt like that was very engaging. So a lot of the sales teams really jumped on board with that. And it made a lot of sense to give a voice to the people that are on the ground with the customers themselves. So that was really good. And out of that, we actually birthed a lot of projects, and we also experienced a higher level of interest from the sales teams. And as a one marketer to another or to a salesperson, I couldn't recommend that approach enough. I think you'll see greater alignment by, getting them involved, getting the sales team involved wherever you can.
And I know I've talked a lot about COVID, but we have to remember the huge impact that it's had and how much it's affected you. So we talked about the company effect and the effect on your customers, but on you as an individual, it's meant that your team has become more isolated. And maybe what we're talking about with Nikki, like you weren't able to get on a plane and just go and like,
no,
so you're talking to somebody in their pajamas, in a, you know, in their home, very different feeling. Projects have been hugely rushed through. I've heard all kinds of stories about people needing to go on stress leave, which feels weird because you're in your own home, but you still need to take time off. And then I know we talk to each other at 11 o'clock at night or 6:30 in the morning. Like, it's just those boundaries have gone completely out the window and people are feeling burnout.
Yeah, and I mean, marketers are busy. There are so many little tasks that keep you busy throughout the day and so many responsibilities. And, you know, you're constantly trying to help and support different teams and, you know, you want to hire out work, but you can't outsource or you can't get the extra head or you can't get the approvals. But, there's one thing that I know as a marketer, and that is that, yes, we did love outsourcing wherever we could, as long as we knew that the agencies were as passionate and cared about our business as much as we did.
Absolutely. And because the thing is, I know when I get super busy, and Nikki and I, like because we collaborate a lot together, we've both been frantic over the last couple of weeks and we've had to calm each other down. And you need to take that time back or relax, chill out. I've got to remind myself to just relax.
Yes.
Because you stop, you forget how to be creative. So when you're really busy, you just go on kind of a weird autopilot. But so there's a couple of things you can do, even in this environment, is to remember what the company's strategic purpose is. So that's realigning yourself with, what the company's all about. And that gives you a certain clarity, whether you're in a small team or in a huge international company. And we were really surprised, actually. Yes. Nikki will talk about this in a minute, but that many marketers aren't provided this information. And I just don't know how they can operate as effectively as they could.
Yeah.
And also to understand the brand values and vision of the organisation. I know as in comms, I would be given a brochure sometimes and I'd have to write that information up on the website, but it really wasn't always sinking in for me or anyone I was working with.
Yeah.
And so it's really thinking, okay, what were those values when the company started? What was the founding story? And what was the original vision for the company? And just to understand that journey, again, just to give you clarity and that creativity back to understand where the founders were coming from, and then, how that's all translating for teams and customers. And of course, all of this that I'm talking about is hard if senior management aren't supporting you or you don't feel like they're supporting you. And that does happen. And these are some of the concerns that we heard when we talked to sales professionals and marketers, that leaders aren't sharing strategic information. I've certainly been in organisations like that, and it is frustrating.
Yes.
Management don't always back your work when dealing with other managers, and that can cause that disconnect between teams. There's also a lack of clarity sometimes as to who is doing what in a marketing team, particularly now with all these silos breaking down. I mean, when I just talk about PR to people, it covers so much. That's just one example. And then also team strengths and weaknesses, either down to the individual or just to the team, aren't always understood.
So, I mean, I was alarmed, to be honest, how many marketers actually didn't know the business or marketing strategy. It was honestly surprising. To me, this didn't make sense because each layer of strategy and, tasks and responsibilities, et cetera, that flow from that should come from the preceding layer. And that should always come from the top down. So that just ensures that you're always kind of working towards a common goal. And, as a marketing manager myself, I made it a priority to sit down with each of our staff every 6 months to make sure that individually and as a team, we're actually all in alignment and, working towards that common goal. And that's a really important thing to do. But, we'd personally discuss, their wins, their strengths, their losses, or opportunities, and look for opportunities to, advance their career. But together we would nut out a plan. And I mean, I guess when you take the time to nut that plan out, you know that you are going to be moving forward in the right direction. So, I think also making an effort to understand their passions and things that they enjoy doing, and then maybe moving some of the team responsibilities around. It just helps to create a happier team and also a more productive team. So I'd strongly recommend implementing an approach or even a review if you haven't already.
So what we've been told that, because we've asked this direct question, what do you want? It's always good to ask yourself, what do I want? So they want career marketers and salespeople. They want career development. You want the budget is a big one, and time provided to learn new skills and grow. You want to be able to have that time with leadership, so an opportunity to speak up and be heard, and less time for approvals.
Yes.
Which is causing all this frustration with salespeople. And we understand why it happens, but it's just something that if it's improved, it could have huge impact. And when you outsource, we've heard all kinds of stories here as well about consultants and agencies not maybe aligning with you as well as they could. Yeah. You want things to be on brand and on time. So we totally get that as well.
So what can we do now to improve your role in a marketing and really sales team? So there are a few simple things that we can do. I guess understanding your corporate strategy and the marketing strategy and how all that intersects and, the responsibilities and tasks that flow from that.
And I think networking is a huge one, and we don't always think about networking within an organisation, or it's not a term that's used as much, but really it's just talking to people widely. And that is a bit harder now that we're not, in some offices people are back in the office, but if we're talking on an international scale, they're not. So it's finding out where those people are and just getting on those chats, building those bridges, just being a social human.
I think it also comes down to embracing new ways of doing things. And, this can be challenging if you're somebody that doesn't like change. But, there has been a lot of benefits for people. For example, during COVID, you get to work at home, which a lot of people are loving and not, it just changes a lot of things. I think also becoming attuned to leadership and understanding things from their perspective and seeing their challenges, that also, I think macroing out and looking at it from a different perspective always helps everybody.
Yeah, and then investing in your own skill development. So thinking about where you want to be, either in this role or in a future role. And okay, maybe there's not the budget in your current role, but thinking of what you can do to upskill.
Yeah, definitely. So I think another thing to do is to find and make time for meetings or, WIPs, work in progress meetings with your team that's suitable and relevant for, for the group. Just keeping on top of tasks and knowing who's responsible for each thing, and even using task management software if it's beneficial it just definitely keeps things more aligned and on and pushing towards the goal.
And you mentioned getting used to change, but being agile and realising, we do have to accept the new normal, and it is all about being agile and accepting and maybe going through a bit of that grief of what things were like before, but then embracing the new. Spending time with your team in any way, shape that any way you can, best that you can. And just understanding that happy teams are going to be better performing teams. Yeah,
so I think, again, planning well is always a big part of it. But, I mean, for me, having a big list of suppliers as a marketer for people that I could outsource to and that I knew were strong and that I knew would deliver exactly what I needed to the budget, to the timeline, is absolute gold. And even as a business,
we know that. We were just saying before, we need our whole team as well. So it's something that everyone selling something or providing a service needs.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. So, I mean, and, we're from here. So basically we have developed a series of, workshops and trainings to help support marketers and sales teams just like you. And we can also offer an extra set of hands and support you where you need it, whether it be for projects or, ongoing work, to be that specialist help that you need.
And actually one thing that came out of us working on this is Nikki mentioned how much she'd love to go and coach teams and uncover all the issues and make things run more smoothly. So those are the things that we're passionate about and we would love to help you with.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an outline of some of the pain points and, you know, opportunities to come. And yeah, we'd love to be able to help you if you need it. And yeah, so our details will come up on the screen. You can see our phone numbers and our emails. So get in contact if you'd like some support.
And please also follow us on social, and we'll send some information about, actually you've got our email addresses as well, but because we share lots of content as well, lots of free content.
Yeah, definitely. All right, thank you.